So, what's the date? Anyone?
It's the 23rd.
Awesome.
Whatever.
And it's what, Thursday? No, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right.
Wednesday, the 23rd of...
You guys ready?
Yeah.
What?
Day 3.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Wednesday, October 21st.
23rd.
23rd.
Okay.
This is going so well.
This is going the outtakes for the Patreon. And today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, and we're in beautiful Maui, which is a little overcast today compared to last year.
A little rainy.
But we're here at the Qualcomm Snapdragon Summit. Thanks, Qualcomm, for bringing us here.
You're welcome.
And there's Sascha back there. And I got a lovely group of people here. I've got Nick Gray on the very left, if you're watching on Patreon. Nick with Fandroid. I've got Mr. Sascha Segan of Qualcomm, who's making sure we don't talk crap. Yeah, there you go. Adam Doud over there /gear. And we got
Everywhere.
Christian DeLooper
From everywhere
with
else.
BGR and a bunch of other places. And we got Phil Berne of Tech Radar and the lovely Matt Swider of The Shortcut.
Thank you.
And hi, I'm here. So, guys, there's obviously a bunch of Snapdragon stuff I want to talk about, including maybe some car stuff a little bit.
Yep.
Christian's here.
Yep.
And you, maybe you'll be around still for that.
Talk a little about the car.
But I also want to chat about the Galaxy, what was it, Z Fold 6 Special Edition that they kind of sneaked in on us just as we were like getting cozy.
Yep.
So, thoughts on that? Let's start with that because of earliest news of the week.
Yeah. I feel like that's the Z Fold 6 that we've been wanting.
Right.
It's got a wider aspect ratio, which I really like.
Is it 21:9?
Pricey. Yeah. Yep.
That's the thing that makes me the happiest about it. It's,
Yeah.
it's finally like competitively thinner and lighter.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it plays along with the Pixels and the OnePlus Opens. It's not quite V3 magic,
Right.
super thin, but it's I think competitive, and it shows that Samsung's actually trying or maybe able.
Kind
Not
of,
sure
sort of
which.
paying
How do you guys
attention.
feel about it? Do you
Is
feel
there
that?
anyone who doesn't think that's the phone Samsung should have launched instead?
Well,
of the
that's
Z
exactly
Fold
it,
6?
right?
Right.
The
Right?
body's
Yeah.
thinner.
But I
the
think-
body's actually thinner as well as wider.
But I think we brought up the point of the price is not the price that we want. We wanted the price to go down, and this is just going the opposite.
Like
But why
200 more.
so
It's
much
not a fan
more?
edition.
Like,
It's a special.
what's the deal? Like,
It's got to be the sensor, and there's more screen, and it's if they're making less of them, they're not going to have the volume. So
Correct.
it's
They're not making the
Plus,
money
it's
back.
$2,000 US or something, which is
Right.
a lot of money.
But if they
carrier
had released
subsidies.
that as the Samsung Galaxy Fold 6, quantity is not an issue.
I think it's hard to understate. Like it's Samsung. People want that wider form factor, but they don't want to leave Samsung.
Yeah. All right.
Another question is, I mean,
I do.
should they bring this to the US?
Yeah.
Now that we have the Fold 6.
It'll probably be the Fold 7, right?
Right. It has to be the next version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but that's a different phone.
Yeah.
Right. We're not. So also has a 200 megapixel main camera. Anybody excited about that? I kind of am because the S24 main camera is pretty solid.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
S24 Ultra.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Is it the same ISUS cell sensor?
I don't
Do we
know. I don't
Yeah.
know. We don't know.
Curious.
We need to check. Fact checker over there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, I don't know.
They're not gonna
We'll look,
accomplish
but the bottom line is this phone is finally what we'd expect from Samsung.
Yeah.
But it's not coming. It's only Korea right now, South Korea, and of course maybe China.
I'm very curious why now? Like why? They gave some room between the Z Fold 6. I mean, this is a good time to launch phones. We're still in that good window, but
Also note, just before the 8 Elite got announced, which is
Exactly.
interesting. They could have waited like a month and made an 8 Elite
Included
version
it.
of that.
And then the price would have gone even higher.
Yes.
But why not? Why not earlier? Like the phone's ready now, but it wasn't. They could have started taking orders or
But
announced
here's
it
the
a
thing:
few
like,
months ago.
what's the difference in price between a $700 flagship with Elite versus Gen 3 and a $2,000? Like, you probably won't notice much of a price difference.
You won't notice, but there is a
There is one.
There is going to be
But
a price difference for the chip itself.
you can
Do any of the Elite devices have prices yet? There were 3 of them pre-announced, but I don't know if we've heard about
I
prices.
think some people know about prices that we can't share yet because we're under embargo. But I will say that I think things will play out like the rumors have been played out, talking about the increase of the chipset price. This is going to be another year of price increases for flagship devices.
So all we know is from Leaker Ice Universe that says the new camera will have
And I know why he side that side.
I have suspicions.
will have better picture quality than the S24 Ultra. That's all it says. So I can't tell if it's the same sensor because nobody owns
Which
the
might
phone.
mean it's the same sensor with better processing.
So we don't really know, basically.
I feel like this phone is an answer to the Google Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
And
Because
all the Chinese phones.
the Chinese phones, because these phones are coming out and Samsung is saying, don't worry, we are in this wider aspect ratio too.
So
we noticed that.
But this phone
and
had
we're
to
gonna-
have been in development for 18 months.
Right, correct.
They've been working.
100%.
This isn't an answer to anything. I mean, this is an answer to the complaints about the Galaxy Z Fold 4.
Okay, so
That's when this phone started
there's
developing.
one thing I'm really concerned about here after Matt mentioned it. Okay, so we have the Google Pixel 9 Pro Fold and the Samsung Galaxy Z6 Fold.
No, Z Fold 6.
Oh, you know it's not
special
playing
edition.
around.
Edition.
Yeah.
It is.
Can we need to start dialing back the number of
The
words
names?
again?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
getting into
Yeah.
like epic 4G touch
Oh
territory.
man,
Yeah.
One plus open.
But
One
what
plus
we
open.
Go back to. We
Also-
want to return.
Simple.
Also, there is a Z Fold 6 special color.
So
Already, it exists.
well, the online only colors.
yeah, that's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's actually officially called that.
So I will say my speculation would be they had the regular Z Fold 6 in production, and then somebody on the engineering team managed to get a different display, and they had a production sample, and they fast tracked it enough where they're like, maybe we can actually launch that, and then they couldn't launch it in time, so this then was postponed into the special edition.
I think
because
you're
there's no way they would have consciously had 2 development cycles for 2 different products that
I'm
they
going to take
knew
it even
were
farther.
good.
I'll bet this is the one they originally wanted, and they couldn't get enough of them in
Right, they
time. They couldn't get enough
they
of these
couldn't
big
get the
screens
quantity.
in time, and
Yeah.
they ended up dialing
Got
it
it.
back to the smaller ones.
So you
but
think
I
the
think,
display is the gating component?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, notice this one has no S Pen support.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which-
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
which means the display is more of a factor in all.
It's
of
also
yeah.
that's why it's also thinner, probably slightly.
Interesting.
Yeah, the digitizer is different.
And yeah, so the front and main screen are actually completely different, not just aspect ratio, but sizes. And it's a bigger phone overall in terms of physical format.
Yeah.
Like because the front screen's like 6.5 or something.
So does that mean I owe Samsung an apology for saying that they've been sitting on their hands since the Fold 3
Well,
in terms of design?
They don't care about your apology.
Well,
I've apologized to them. They don't care.
I mean, it's just really puzzling, and I think it's good. I'm happy to see it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that Samsung's trying to play the game a bit, but at the same time, it's just so puzzling. Like there's just only one market this time, this pricing, 8 Gen 3. It's so many
It
questions.
says a lot about foldable phones, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know what else is really weird? The other cameras are not at all different. It's like it's got like a crappy 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 10 megapixel 3x telephoto. Like, oh yeah, you have a 200 megapixel. Why? You don't need a 3x telephoto when you have a 200 megapixel main sensor. You need a 5x telephoto. That's
Right.
what you need.
what I
weird.
find interesting is you mentioned the S Pen is not compatible with this new device. A lot of my comments, they want that little silo where they can stick the S Pen into a
Yeah.
fold. And everybody's like, we want it to disappear. And Samsung was like, okay, it's disappeared. It doesn't work.
It disappeared.
They solved the problem.
did.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the important part of the show, because it's like we're here thanks to Qualcomm, and there's a new chip, and it's a very exciting. I'm super excited about
Yeah.
the Snapdragon 8 Elite. There's also some, automotive chips, Snapdragon Cockpit Elite and
Ride.
Elite,
Yep.
and we'll talk about those a little bit too. But the big news here is that we have a second gen CPU Orion core, which is much more efficient and faster than what is in the Snapdragon X Elite, which is kind of crazy. So here we are, like a year later, and
Right.
and it's like a huge step forward. And like from what we're seeing on the benchmarks I ran today, and like it beat the iPhone, which is we haven't seen an Android.
No,
device.
it did not beat the iPhone. It pants the iPhone and took its lunch money.
There you go. But the point I'm making, we haven't
close.
seen an Android device beat the iPhone in many, many, many years.
Right.
On benchmark. Now benchmarks don't mean everything, right?
Right.
So what are your thoughts, you guys, on this chip? On this
Even more
evolution?
interesting than that was that it beat the Intel Core Ultra
Oh, that's
7.
right.
That was such just a
In-
flex.
in
Okay?
single
Just
core, I mean,
a flex.
It's they're saying it's desktop class processing in a mobile device, and it really might be for some applications, and in some
Right.
ways, it really is bringing some real power. So it could be interesting.
And here's the
I-
thing: most people don't need this power in a mobile device. But what gets me excited as somebody who does mobile gaming, there's this big argument about no true gamers aren't mobile gamers, but
That's BS.
it is and isn't, because the types of true gamers they have dedicated
Depends
To
graphics
some
cards.
extent, it also depends on what country you're in.
Exactly.
It really
Yeah.
depends
Yeah.
on
No, but like people are talking like high-end graphics intensive
Right.
games. which
Depends
you
on what
can't-
country you're in.
Which you can't play on mobile. But this makes me excited because there are a whole ton of Windows games that are only on Windows because they need a certain level of power, but they're not advanced power that could easily be ported to this chip.
Like, what are you thinking?
Well, like, so a game that just came out called Tiny Glade. It's a world builder game, and it costs $8 on Steam. And you just build this medieval town and city. And it like, if you love SimCity type games, you're building this great, beautiful little town or castle.
Cool.
And it could easily run it, and it runs on the Snapdragon X Elite on desktop, which means we have a chip that's now more powerful than that we could run a game like this on mobile,
But
that's
where
not-
it's absolutely amazing. It's not this high end, like I'm not playing Call of Duty at 180 frames per second to need the best latency, whatever.
Yeah.
I just want a casual game, but that's limited right now to desktop.
Right.
That
It's
could
not-
totally be played on
It's not
mobile.
a chip capability question. That is totally not a chip capability question.
No,
it's
but-
just an OS question.
It is, but
you
like
look at that Naraka Blade Point mobile game that they showed during the presentation. There is nothing that is not AAA about that game.
No, but the same can be said for Genshin Impact, right? And I would say Genshin Impact is higher levels, but the desktop version is a different version than the mobile version, right? And so they've created a specific mobile
Same
version.
thing with like Alien Isolation. Like there's the mobile version, there's the desktop version. You're not getting the exact same thing. It looks great. But
You
it's not
log
the
in, you're
exact
playing the
thing.
same game, but the graphics are definitely different between the two.
But there's
It's
also
been
and it would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see like if this does change some of the view or trends in mobile game developers, because like a lot of these mobile games, the way they are is because they have to run on a Snapdragon 7 Gen 2 as well.
Right.
They're aiming so that it's not just for the top of the line.
top of
Right.
the line.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are games that are just like we saw. There's the new version of Grid that's specifically built for top of the line games, and it runs incredibly on the Snapdragon 8 Elite.
Elite, yeah.
I mean, if Disney can make its racing game work special with foldable phones, they can definitely get games working with Snapdragon 8 Elite chips. There's going to be more of those
Right.
on the market than there will be foldable.
But I would say in terms of like saying like you don't necessarily need that power, I sat in a whole bunch of interviews between people and Carl Wilton, our CPU head, and one thing he was pointing out is that even in browsing, responsiveness actually responds massively to CPU power.
Yes.
In a way
Yeah.
that
Oh, yes.
in a way that it can just soak up all the CPU power you're thinking of.
A lot of games I've encoded games. A lot of games are coded to be really highly scalable. Like they see what the CPU can give it and they scale up to it. And they'll eat it all up. If you give it more and more. Like if you install Homeworld, my game I worked on in 1999, and you set everything to not hardware acceleration. So just the renderer is on CPU, the audio engine is on the CPU, everything's on the CPU. You run that today, and you run it like you'd have to run it in Windows 95 or something.
95,
But if
98.
you could run it like
Would it be good?
you would give it like if you give it a multi-core gigahertz chips that we have today, it'll probably render at like 4,000 by 3,000, super high resolution textures, the whole shebang, because we have so much CPU power,
Nice.
So it's kind of cool. Like it's one of the things I think that game developers do really well, especially engine developers like Unreal and Unity, where they see what resources are available and kind of scale the game to match, because not all hardware is the same. Some chips have better NPUs, some chips have better GPUs, etc. Right?
Or apparently see what resources are available and scale your car dashboard to match.
Exactly, in this case. But what are your thoughts on the chip? Like, obviously, it's like up to 40% faster for gaming with better thermals and better efficiency for battery life, which I think I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
What I want to see is, I really don't care about benchmarks, and gaming is not my thing either. What I want to see is, like, hopefully in normal day-to-day use for the kind of stuff I do that's not really CPU intensive, I want to see some really nice battery gains.
Yeah.
And maybe some thermal gains too. I think that, obviously current Snapdragon chips, 8 Gen 3 doesn't get super hot in day-to-day use, like unless you're playing a game or something. But if you're rendering video maybe or doing something like that, you start noticing it.
Yeah.
Maybe we see better thermals this time around.
I'm also interested in seeing like what the sustained performance is going to be like.
In gaming,
Well, that and the thermals, because the Snapdragon 8 Elite doesn't have any efficiency cores. They only have, Prime and Performance.
Yeah.
And according during the
But
Q&A,
is this just nomenclature?
That's just naming.
There's so-
Right.
so-
No,
I'll say this.
What's the
I'll
difference?
say this. The performance is just a rebranded efficiency core.
well, sure.
Like they're like, it's still efficient, and
but it has
Performs
performance
really well.
so let's just call them performance.
Yeah.
Let's just call it. We'll call them
I thought you
efficiency
could only have
cores.
one prime core, but it turns out you can have multiple prime.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting. That's what I'm curious about, and also see if there's any optimizations in Android 15 or 16 next year. That.
But actually, the one thing that excites me the most is the new imaging pipeline that they've done with
new
this.
ISP,
So now with the ISP and the rejiggering of where the data is going when, allowing the OEMs to get the raw data out of the sensor now before it gets that initial processing, which means we have phones from a lot of the Chinese brands, right? Who have partnered with Leica, who have partnered with Hasselblad, who have these custom image tones to their images. They'll actually be able to do that with the raw data rather than the processed data, which means it's going to turn out a whole lot better and actually give them a lot more control over that complete imaging pipeline.
Yeah.
And
which
also,
I think is going to be
the
amazing.
ISP can talk to the NPU directly now too,
Yes.
which I think is going to be much more effective for some things. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised if, so overall there's less lag in everything, like less latency for shutter, for, all kinds of processing. Like, how right now you take a photo and like on some phones, you can see it kind of process in real time. It takes like
You
one
can
quarter
watch,
of a second or
you
something.
can watch the gerbil draw the
Yeah, that's
picture
right.
on the sensor.
But also more levels of live segmentation. So
Yes.
if you have
Yeah.
these images where it's a whole bunch of different things that are lit differently, it controls for more variables to get more balance into your image.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think also we're a little spoiled and we don't think about this often, but the performance gains are going to have a big impact on end of lifespan of the device.
Yeah.
Compared to
Yeah.
right now when
And
everyone.
actually,
with that, they
speaking of which,
updated software updates
up to
That's
8
right. Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
8 years.
is that-
So
yeah.
OEMs get support from Qualcomm for 8 years.
Yeah.
And that used to be the bottleneck. It was some brands were saying we want to do more updates, and they go back to Qualcomm or the competitors as well. And they're like, no, we're not making the drivers. We're not building that next version of Android for these devices.
I've kind of felt like that's what's holding back Android's long-term value too, and resaleability and all those other issues. That
you
they
buy
just
an
get abandoned.
iPhone and you 6
You
years
got
later
5,
it's
6
still
years, yeah.
still, and this is 5 years ago, right?
Right.
Like people are like, I'm still using an old iPhone and I just got an update, and Android devices are like,
Who knows?
it's been 18 months.
Yeah.
It's out of software support.
Yeah.
Well,
And it still falls back to the OEMs, right?
we're
They-
saying
they-
8 now. Samsung's saying 7, right? What
yeah.
is Samsung saying?
Samsung says 7.
Samsung says
Google
7.
says 7.
Yeah.
Apple says 7.
But Apple has actually had phones for 5 years, and Samsung and Google have not had those 7-year
Hasn't played
promise
out
on
yet.
their phones
Right.
Yeah.
for more than 2 years.
Yeah, they haven't owned that 7-year promise yet.
So I think it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. And also, will there be? I mean, there will be, but I'm curious to see what happens when there is an 8 Plus. Snapdragon 8 Plus.
Yeah.
Because we know there's an X Plus, so there'll be an 8 Plus.
Yeah.
And that means that maybe the price will be super competitive, and we'll start seeing basically what happened with 8S Gen 3, right? Slightly lower tier.
So what's next year? 8 Elite Gen
So
2?
yeah, let's debate the
Sascha,
naming.
what's next year?
Yeah.
We can't ask
8
Sasha.
Plus Gen
but
2.
Before we go to the next one, can I point out,
I'm
like-
like going down a dark spiral of our own nomenclature now. I'm like making.
What
I'm
have
like,
we done?
I'm
Why
like
didn't we think of this?
88 Elite, 8 squared Elite.
Can I point out that
16?
no one here mentioned AI?
well,
Miriam did. Miriam mentioned the NPU.
I
Okay.
didn't say the word AI.
No, that is AI. Okay, the heaviest use of AI in modern smartphones is making your photos look good.
Sure.
Correct.
And that is all AI.
That's not what we
It
all
is
talked
all
about this
AI
whole week.
models.
Correct.
But it's
So-
not generative AI.
Right.
I think when we
It's
talk about
traditional AI.
when we talk about when I talk about
It's the AI
image
that's been there for a
processing,
while.
Old
I
school
talk
AI.
about machine learning, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what
No,
the
but it's also it's models. Like if you go on
well,
the AI hub,
Where do you think those models
most
come
of
from?
those
From
models
machine
are-
learning.
right,
You
are
train the
image-
machine.
image
But,
models.
but Sasha, that's not what we heard all the executives talking about
Exactly.
for two
They were
straight days.
generative.
They were talking about AI in the car, and they were talking about the
on the
assistants
edge.
and agents and things like that.
But so what I came, even with the AI talk today, what I came away with, all this AI talk is B2B. It's the chipsets enabling something for the car manufacturer to do something.
Right.
This has nothing to do with consumer used AI.
Right.
it's a vision.
Well,
like you can.
it's a vision.
Qualcomm
But-
doesn't make a consumer product.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
No,
It's
but
always
like,
the case.
it's enabling. So for the automotive stuff, it's enabling the car to do something that the user will never know that it used AI to do that.
Well, I mean,
Right? Like it's invisible to the end user.
There's a lot of that
which,
for sure.
Which honestly, I think is the best implementation of it. But when we're trying to, we all deal with the consumer story.
Right.
And the only things that we keep seeing with AI is the repeat of the same things over and over. We can string words together and we can do stuff with images. And we're like,
Cool.
but why?
I see something different this
not
time.
convincing.
I've seen a shift now to the AI agents. I think that what they're trying to tell us is, okay, we're done with the party tricks, we're done with the bar tricks and the cool, you can ask it to do this and you can make it that.
yeah.
And the next thing we're going to have when the series and the Bixby's or whatever they call them are going to finally launch, AI is now going to control a lot on your phone. Now, I do not buy the vision that Qualcomm puts forward that you're going to say, hey, what's my bank balance? And AI is going to say, here's your last transactions, because I don't think AI is going to replace apps that way. I
Right.
think that those app makers, they are brands. They have an investment
Yeah,
in you
right.
and collecting all your information. And Capital One loves that I see their logo every single time I open up their app.
100%.
Right.
They're not giving that
Yeah.
up. So
I'm going down the water slide, but I just want to add one more thing about AI, which is the AI use case that blew my mind the most when watching these. And
splitting the check.
I didn't get to see the
Splitting the check.
presentations in advance, so I was as surprised as all of you were. No, it was the car saying, "I'm going to go find you a parking spot. See you later."
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Maybe
But
that is just
doesn't
my
a
lifestyle
Tesla do that?
and
Elon
where I
promised
live.
that a lot.
No, it doesn't go around the city finding you a space.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
let's be
Okay.
clear.
Those are the
That,
parking
let's
lot
let's be clear. That was just a concept of something that
Right. It's
could
a vision.
happen.
It's
Yeah.
a vision of the future.
It was a
Wh-
concept.
which is the concept that Elon said 5 years ago.
Right.
Right. It's a
Your
vision
car
of
will
the
drive from
future,
California to
and
meet
my vision
Yep.
is on the water slide. So
Have fun.
have fun.
Yep.
Thanks for
Hi.
joining us,
Thanks,
Sasha.
Sasha.
Sasha
Sasha.
Segan of Qualcomm, folks. So yeah, other things, any other thoughts about 8
I mean,
Elite?
we haven't talked about the most important demo that we saw
Which
this
is
week.
the puppies?
The puppies. So no, and actually no, I'm going somewhere with this. I don't want to just talk about puppies, even though the puppies were so cute. No, so just to give a little context for those who don't know, they had Qualcomm had a demo of they called it pet photography, which I think they completely missed an opportunity to call it just petography. But
No.
Popography.
pupography. There we go.
There you go.
So they basically, if you take an action shot of your pet, your cat, your dog, whatever, That it'll give you do a burst section. The AI will grab the best image that it thinks it likes, and then you have these sliders that you can use to adjust like the blurriness and you
The
can do like
furriness.
you could do a generative AI on the fur to make it look, more like your dog. Now, this is a combination. This is
Yeah.
this is
What's
a recipe of a lot of different things that have all been done before, but they're all coming together in what I think could legitimately be like a useful feature for pet owners.
Could be.
I
Except, so the results that I saw,
I didn't think it was a good result.
I did 5 or 6 tests and looked at the results, and it didn't look anything better than over sharpening.
Correct.
And
So what you're saying is that dog don't hunt. Sorry.
And
Yeah.
also,
and so like
some
Is that what it does?
maker has to do
Generate
I'm
it.
so glad that Matt is here to tell the bad jokes.
It didn't generate anything. It made what was
It just
there
sharpens
a
it.
little bit sharp.
But that's fine.
Let's be clear. Qualcomm isn't in the business of actually shipping consumer products.
No.
Yeah.
The OEMs will take this and say, hey, there's some underlying things we can do with this.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the photography AI stuff that we have on all of our phones, you will use it once and you'll never use it again.
I disagree. If it's a useful enough feature, you will use it
More-
often enough.
More importantly, is it a selling point for the OEM to tout, even if you use it once?
Yeah.
and they
But like
get their say.
in every review that I do, I talk about it. I'm like, this is it. This does some cool stuff. You're never going to use it.
No,
This is
yeah.
not a reason
It
to
has
buy
to
a
be
phone.
baked into the whole processing,
Does.
and then you can
Yeah.
can tweak it after that if you want. But like you can any of the processing now.
Yeah.
But it has to be baked in and automatically.
You know
Work.
what I don't like about all this is, and this is more of an aside. This is not a specific Qualcomm thing, but like I'm on Pixel a lot, and I have the option to use Magic Eraser, which is
Right.
I don't think it's AI. I don't think it's generative AI. It's just AI. It's machine learned erase, and then there is
It
It's generating what it thinks is behind the
no,
object.
no.
that you're
That's
erasing.
that's the other option which I was getting to is that
Oh,
that's Magic
if you pick
Editor.
the Magic Editor. So what I don't understand is that first of all, this is still Google because they have two different things. They
Right.
do kind of similar things and also do it just as scrappily, which is like what I don't understand is like I have not gotten a result yet that I feel is adequate.
Oh,
Every
really?
now and then
Okay.
I'm like, oh, this is
Nothing
good,
great.
but like very few times in what just even removing the sticker from the back of the whatever they call the dev system.
Did you
Like
try
I did that, and
No, you
and-
can't do something that's
like-
like a solid color and think it's going to replace it with the same
if our
solid color.
brains can imagine it, that's
No.
what generative
It doesn't know
AI
how
should
to
be
do
able
solid.
You can't do the things that you imagine. You can ask it to do something that will please you and it will do something, but I don't think you can't aim it at a target and say, I want it to do that. You can say, go do something cool, and it will do
Yeah.
something cool.
And this is the
I
problem
want this horse
with
to be
generative
purple.
AI. And even Magic Eraser, which is not generative AI, doesn't do a very good job. in
So
that.
along the
So
topics of Magic Eraser, now we have
it's like
video
we need to
eraser.
fix that first
Yeah.
before we go to the fancy stuff. Okay.
Video eraser
So
is
video
years out, I feel.
eraser,
Yeah.
which along those same lines doesn't seem to work as well as they say. Try the demo.
like a predator effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like you record a video and then you tap something that you want erased and
Yeah.
it'll regenerate, essentially processing frame by frame on device, which
Yeah.
is great. You
Yeah.
don't have to upload to the cloud,
And
which
it
I think
tracks
is,
that object too, which is also nice.
except for the random frame that it forgot to erase it. And it like there someone was walking by and there's a palm tree behind. I erased the palm tree. It was gone for 10 frames and then there for 2, gone for another, then there for 2,
Oh.
and then it was pixelated and they put something else back there.
And what it generated
And then-
in the place just was weird. It just didn't look
Right.
Yeah, it was just like
Just
it
a
looked good for 2 frames, and the rest of the frames you're like, what's going on here? So
Right.
again, this is not
is
a finished
early
product
days.
that ships.
Yeah.
OEMs will have to make their own, right?
It is early days.
definitely something
I-
that will happen at some point.
And
And
that was at
rebrand the hell out of
4K30,
it.
right?
I will brace people. There's going to be some OEMs who implement it, and it's going to
It's
be like
gonna be real
cinematic mode version 1 when they first came out with
Yeah.
it, where
With
like
the blurred background.
people were blurry still, the subjects were blurry, but
Yeah.
eventually they nailed it. So like they put it out there.
5-6 generations.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, but
Yeah.
it could be good. But right now
Not-
it's proof of concept.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not saying like I'm not anti Gen AI. I just feel like the Gen AI tools so far have been
Underwhelming.
very underwhelming. And for me, imaging is a big thing. Like, I really do believe that Gen AI could be useful for imaging, for editing in particular, and for video, like video erase and stuff like that. But we're so early days; it's so not baked.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me. It's like we've had Magic Eraser on Pixel for a few years now, and it's still not very good. Like, fix that before you go to the Gen AI stuff. Like, give us something that's bulletproof.
Well, it's funny because like we have like professional video editing tools like Premiere on desktop.
Yeah.
And let's say you want to blur somebody's face. And now within the last 2 years, they've gotten to the point where the actual face tracking is good enough that you select it once and it will track it through the entire thing.
Right.
But that's just blurring a face. It's like, here's a mask, wear this. It's not saying remove the face and create what's behind it.
Right.
Right?
That's a
like
whole
the
different...
professional tools can't do this yet, that people are paying subscriptions to.
And we're
We're
want
not going
phones
to
to
get
do it.
free consumer tools for a very, very long time.
No, but I mean, look, I think that going back to Qualcomm and their chip, I'm actually really excited to see these phones. And but I'm also very excited to see the 9400.
I'm excited to
and-
use
you know,
Dex.
Dex on
Dex with
It's gonna be
a
fast.
chip that's as fast as a laptop chip.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. I want an entire market of Dex accessories to explode.
Well-
with these, I want laptops that have nothing inside that I just stick my
that sounds
phone into.
very interesting.
Yeah, right. The Motorola Atrix. Let's go back to all that.
We've had that for a decade. We
It's-
just didn't have a chip to take advantage of.
I want Samsung to make one. I want Motorola to make one. I want all the OEMs to go back and make these accessories for me again. I want a whole new ecosystem of just my phone plus keyboard and monitor
Right.
that I can
But
drag
I'm-
around with
I'm
me.
just really excited to see, like, once, like January or so, when we have a few phones from 8 Elite and 9400 Dimensity.
November.
Like,
I mean,
no,
we're-
but like, what I'm
a
saying, like,
handful of devices.
the ones you can
More
buy,
than two.
like,
we're
you
gonna
know,
have
how
free
much.
by the end of before the end of the year.
I'm getting my first Elite this week
Okay.
from Realme.
Oh, from Realme. Okay.
So,
yeah.
it's coming.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's like last year, it's exactly the same thing that happened. I got the Realme 5 GT5 Pro, like, within a week or two of the summit. And so I'm really excited about that because I'm like, okay, I can run benchmarks
Yeah.
and validate stuff. But at the same time, like, I want to see what happens like in January once the S25 is out.
Yeah.
Like, once consumers can go to the carrier and buy a phone.
Yeah.
Like, we won't see the 9400 in that context, but at least we'll be able to compare.
Do you think we're going to see the manufacturers, especially Samsung, do you think Samsung's going to have a way to flex that power in the next phone? Or do you think it's going to be just more of the same
more
but
AI,
faster?
More AI.
More
Yeah.
AI.
More
Yeah.
AI.
I just hope it's something
All the
beyond
AI.
what we've seen with, like, you can take your photo and draw a hat on yourself. And
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
like, why
it was
do I
a
want
good
that?
hat, but
Yeah.
yeah, you
was
know,
one time.
I drew a hat a couple of times
Yeah.
and it drew like a watermelon on my
Yeah.
head. And I was like, wait a second.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we'll see. So naming conventions, I'm calling it, it's going to be 8 Elite Gen 2.
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah,
It will.
that makes sense.
And but we're definitely
terrible,
getting, guys,
but
we're
yeah.
definitely getting an 8 plus. I guarantee you we're getting an 8 plus.
Yeah.
Because they come.
And let's be clear,
Wait,
an 8
8
plus
plus
is
or
actually a
8S?
minus.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
It's 8 plus. Yeah, right. It's
An 8 plus is a minus.
So what are you losing in 8 plus?
Well, it might even just,
less
no, but
graphics, less
it
NPU.
might be binned. It might be binned and run at a low clock speed. Even.
Okay, yeah.
Because those chips are probably really, really hard to make. 3 nanometers with.
Yeah.
Did you see the complexity, the number of cores on the GPU, on the
At
CPU,
that speed,
on
it's
the
unbelievable.
NPU,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
buses, that memory buses? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
they scale all this down. They bin the chips at the factory. Plus,
Do you think we get a
done.
4 Galaxy? Do we think we get a
Oh, of
clocked
course
up?
we do.
Oh,
Of course
yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact
No way
that
Qualcomm's giving up that money.
the fact that Samsung is going to be number 6 at the very earliest in terms of phones coming out.
They'll be like 12.
Yeah,
Like by the end of the year, we're
Actually,
like all the
from what-
Chinese OEMs
Yeah,
will
but
have
the
2 phones.
4 Galaxy, they took the biggest core, they took the one biggest core, and they clocked it up 5 whole percent.
Yeah.
Now,
whole
adult marketing.
now they've got all power cores at the top. Do they overclock
I'm
all of
telling
them?
you exactly what's happening.
Okay.
Did you go to the benchmarks today?
Oh, it was the
They
faster
have 2
RAM.
memory, exactly.
It was the
The-
5.3
So, yeah,
gigahertz
which-
RAM.
which-
yeah,
Yep.
that's exactly
But-
what we're gonna
but
get.
also,
The slower one will be 4.8
Yep,
gigahertz RAM. The
exactly.
faster one will 5.
Yep.
Okay, there you
That's
go.
what's
but who in the Android OEMs that hits the US market is actually the one that pushes the memory all the time?
OnePlus.
OnePlus.
And
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
So
to see
OnePlus,
what-
I
Oh,
say,
yeah.
will probably beat Samsung to market on that end.
Well, it'll beat
Yeah.
Samsung to market. It'll performance beat pretty much
All
a
the
ton
things.
of
All
the
commercial
other
devices.
elites.
Yeah.
But here's the exciting thing. We should talk about this is the order of things because we've already know from the keynote that Xiaomi's going to be first, literally before the end of October.
Right.
30th.
With the 15th. It's the 30th officially.
No, who's the 30th? They
30th, and then Honors like
So
the
this
next
is the-
day.
Honors
Yeah.
the 30th.
This is the 15 series. That's
Xiaomi's
right.
first, but October.
Exactly,
Didn't say
exactly,
the date.
exactly.
Then it's
Then it's
ASUS phone. The ASUS
The
ROG
ROG.
phone 9.
ROG phone.
ROG,
Yeah.
don't say
Yeah,
ROG.
I know.
Oh my God, they'll kill you. They get me every time.
I know.
Hi, audience, we love you. But no, like,
and then Realme after that.
and then Realme.
And then
But-
OnePlus probably.
But like Realme, strangely enough, was like, there's a new phone coming. That's it. They didn't
Yeah.
say anything else.
No, they did.
Um,
they had a press release at the same time as when the keynote started,
Yeah.
but they weren't on stage. But yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
had a press release.
So speaking of the ASUS, I wrote a story for Tech Radar yesterday about. I got hands on. I played with it. It looks almost identical to the RG Phone 8.
It really
in
does,
terms of
yeah.
form factor, port positions, everything.
good thing.
It's a little lighter. From what I remember from memory, it's hard to tell. But it's also, they said. So I asked Sascha, the ASUS rep, Sascha Kron, if there was any major, like what to expect. He's like, oh, I can't tell you, but expect mostly the same specs with some improvements. So I'm thinking
Okay.
probably a brighter screen because the current one is 2500 nits, which is, good, but it's
Yeah.
not state of the art. And it's a 165 hertz screen. So generally the compromise is frequency refresh versus brightness. It's
Okay.
hard to do both very together. So we'll see how it goes. Cameras are probably going to be identical.
Yeah.
They're not
Unfortunately.
spectacular, but I don't think this is a gaming phone, right?
Yeah.
And then probably bigger battery. I figure we're going to bigger battery. And then we're probably going to get,
They actually Sharpied out the battery
Yeah,
on the exploded
exactly.
on the exploded
if you
version
go to
that
my
they brought.
story on Tech Radar, you'll see that they actually they blacked out all the battery stuff on the exploded model.
Because
Yeah.
that was one of the only things they were losing against Red Magic.
Yeah.
It was the battery life.
Yeah.
Red Magic had a massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
It's 6,000 actually.
Yeah.
Was it 6,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is on an HM3. So I think actually we're going to get a Red Magic probably with even bigger battery this year. But for the ASUS, I think a bigger battery, a slightly brighter display, and the rest is going to be the same. But I think it's going to run cooler and it's going to run better battery life even with the same battery. And it's going to, I think I'm actually really looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
And I'm even more looking forward to the Red Magic because Red Magic always, I'm sorry ASUS, but they do it better.
They go one step ahead.
The software isn't as good. But who cares? Because
Wait, on the Red Magic, you mean?
No. This is the kind of phone you buy every year. Buy new ones. They're so affordable. The Red
Right.
Magics, like
They're
you
like
don't care.
650, 700
I
bucks.
know you just buy another one.
I'm waiting for the day when, for all the gamers out there, when you can have console quality games on an Android phone. We've seen that a little bit on the iPhone, and the reviews weren't great. The performance,
Not just console quality, the actual console games. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah, they-
simultaneous
Dock it, like,
launch on an
it's
Xbox
decks, right?
and
It's decks.
Right.
Everybody
It's decks.
just
Dock
needs
it,
to play
done.
build Unity games,
Yeah.
and then and so they can be on all the platforms.
but it's the Assassin's Creed,
Control.
Death
I want
Stranding.
all of
oh yeah,
and
if I could
also-
play Assassin's Creed on mobile,
right,
that
Resident
would
Evil.
there's like
friggin' amazing.
30
And they came out
different
for iPhone, but it was a
Can't get
little
one.
bit performance.
right. I just want the original,
Yeah.
man.
We spoke about OnePlus 13, but has OnePlus actually said it has an 8 Elite? Like,
Have they strayed
we
from
do not know yet.
top tier?
OnePlus hasn't said anything about any phones coming up. What are you talking about?
I mean, the president of Samsung was on stage and didn't announce that they were officially
Sure.
bringing the Elite to
yeah,
their
bro,
phone.
you know,
He
that's-
just happened to be in town.
Yeah.
So.
I kind of want him to
There's a
be
holiday
a
house, yeah.
DJ.
Yeah.
I want him
It's
to
a DJ name.
secretly be DJ TM Row,
Yeah.
like underground Korean DJ.
He might be.
Welcome to the stage, TJ TM Row.
Hey,
There you go.
right on. Thanks. Maybe I'll use that as a thumbnail.
Yeah.
If you can answer it.
I think I got everybody.
We want to quickly talk about automotive. I think what's really interesting, I don't know if you got this, Christian. There's two chips, but
chips.
really there's one chip.
It's
Turns out.
just the
So-
tier that they
Yeah.
pay
You were
to
there for
use.
that, right?
Yeah, so it's one chip, and it's just what the OEM is actually using.
So they
on
have
that chip is what
the
they pay
chips
for.
have specialties.
Right.
Like the
Yeah.
ride chip, which handles ADAS and driving stuff,
Yeah. Mhm.
has much more security and safety features
Yeah.
built in.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can, if you want, as an OEM, ride on the cockpit chip simultaneously as cockpit if you have very basic ADAS or you're trying to be cost effective with your product, and they have enough safety. And so it's really interesting to me because also they wouldn't tell us the nanometers of the chips. They wouldn't tell us this the SKUs, the number of SKUs.
Yeah, they didn't tell us
And,
much about
I
it.
have a feeling that these are conceptual chips.
Well, so,
They are.
so
They
I,
said they're
Like
not
they're
sending
going to
samples
custom make
until
them.
mid
But no,
2025.
I think that they're essentially custom making them for each OEM, right? I think that's what's
it
going on.
could
That
be.
makes
So, but
sense.
like, they're not. So at the automotive demos, talked to somebody, and they said the first vehicles coming out with these new chips will hopefully be Q4 2025.
Well, it's pretty quick, actually.
Yeah,
But that's hopefully,
all
Right.
things
which
considered.
means they
So
probably
what is
won't.
BMW showing off at CES? Because they kept hinting there's going to be some new BMW at CES with all this stuff.
It's a new BMW that's not using this.
So the Neue
Okay.
Klasse.
So it's not this chip.
no, it's the chip from 2
So the
years
Neue
ago.
Klasse has been
Yeah.
the Neue Klasse has been shown as a
Right.
prototype concept for
Yeah.
a while. I think this is going to be closer to production Neue Klasse.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going to use those chips, honestly.
Yeah,
I would
so
be very
so
surprised.
none of the demos were using the new chip.
How about the
These-
Rivian R3?
It's possible because
Yeah.
that's
Because
the timeline
that's
works.
like
Yeah.
2 years
the
ago.
timeline
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, something
yeah.
like that could be using, and
Yeah.
Rivian does
And
use.
they haven't
the
announced
Rivian
Qualcomm.
what
uses
chips
a
they're using.
combination of Qualcomm for Cockpit and NVIDIA for ADAS. So
Yeah,
they're a little bit weird.
yeah.
But I
But
think-
now there's a chip that could theoretically
Right.
run both, right?
And the cool thing about these new Elite chips is that, as the name implies, they use the Orion cores,
Right.
the second gen ones, the same
Yeah.
as mobile. And so, on an electric car where the combined power consumption of all of your devices, your motors, your everything matters,
Yeah.
having a chip that's more efficient,
Yeah.
that's constantly running, is actually an important thing. So I think that's what I'm excited about. I'm not really
Yeah.
excited about the fact that it's an Orion chip per se.
To be clear, though, a car is the least efficient place that you need to worry about a chipset like this because you have a 80 kilowatt
Gigantic
hour
motor.
battery.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the chip efficiency in a car is not an issue
Yeah,
compared to any
But
other
but I'll
implementation.
tell you why it's important because, for example, you know how Tesla lets you stream live video from your car when it's parked, right?
Yeah.
You can look at like for security,
Yeah.
or it's constantly recording. When there's motion, it starts recording. That stuff fires up those cores. So
Yeah.
like right now, it's
but to be
firing.
clear, with-
right now, it's firing up an entire computer in the car.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
imagine if it was just firing up some part of some processor.
But
I mean-
but to be clear, even if you're powering up the entire computer, you could run it for 4 years straight before the
No, so
battery
that's-
dies.
We're
That's
talking about
actually-
10 watts.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
so-
it's-
but that's actually the thing. So what, a lot of people don't use the Sentry mode full time on their Teslas when it's parked and not plugged in because it actually does eat quite a bit of the main battery.
Right.
Because over time, if you're at the airport for 10 days, you're going to lose probably about 20% of your battery if you have the thing on all the time. Which
I would
is a
say
lot.
it should be less than that.
It should
If-
be less, but it's not right now because those chips are like 25 nanometer, like
Oh,
super
well,
inefficient.
Correct.
You know what I'm
what,
saying?
for what Tesla is using
like
currently.
like a Model 3 from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But that's exactly why those
the Model
chips
3 from
matter.
3 years ago is using a 4-year-old chip.
It's
So-
actually, by the way, the infotainment on the old Model 3s is an Intel Atom.
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
And the
Well, remember when-
infotainment on the new Model 3s is an AMD something, right?
Remember when they used to use it? The first ones were using the NVIDIA chips.
That's right.
yeah,
for-
which were not efficient whatsoever.
And then Tesla made their own ADAS chips, and currently all the Teslas have their own ADAS chips.
Yeah.
No.
I'm more excited about the cockpit than the ride. to be
me
honest,
too,
Because
yeah.
there's such a need for like better performance in just infotainment systems.
Exactly.
that
Right.
But
the
a lot of
car
it
makers
is
just skimp
software
on it.
gated because even
Yeah.
on an old Tesla, the software runs great on the Atom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it can run great, if it can feel like an iPad on an Atom chip, why can't it feel perfect on like a modern chip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest gripe I have is the software, you know?
Yeah.
I thought the one cool demo that they were talking about, like one of their visionary things, was how you're, and this happens to me all the time, how you're like driving down the street and you're like, wait, that sign seemed kind of important. What did it say? And
Oh, yeah.
they're saying, no, you could take the visual data from all the sensors and you could like ask your AI assistant,
What was
like,
that
what
sign
did that
I just
sign?
saw?
One. I
And
didn't see
it-
that.
That
That's
is
really
a very
cool one.
nice
Yeah.
generative AI use case. So
Yeah,
not
They should have been
generative,
repeating
but-
that over and over again.
So to be
Right.
clear, that's a concept of something that
Yes.
could.
Oh yeah. Totally.
No one has ever implemented
That
such
is-
a thing.
that's
Okay, but
right
in,
up there with
in
the car
AI
parking
though,
itself.
we don't
Yeah.
have enough concepts. Like,
Right?
we
No,
have
there's
no idea
no
what we should be doing with
concept.
AI, and it's all just throwing stuff at the wall.
Right, and yeah, AI needs more cool concepts like that.
But
that really hit home.
but here's the thing. That concept is easy to think up. It's actually pretty easy to implement. But the fact that they actually didn't implement it means do they not have anybody who could know how to implement that? Because like that, they're showing off these chipsets and what they could do. We were at the car demo stuff and there was nothing showing off any of these
Right.
concepts, which means like, is there actually demand for this? Would this actually be useful? Or
They have said over and over that
we
the
have an
Cockpit
idea of
Elite-
something could happen one day in the future, maybe in a
The
decade.
Cockpit Elite can handle 16 4K screens, and they have not showed us one car with 16 4K screens.
I mean,
so,
But to answer your point, though, and I don't know enough about cars to speak intelligently on this, so I never let that stop me before. Are there cars now that have the processing power to take in all the visual data from 360 degrees around your car and understand a question that you asked, what was that sign back there, and go in and OCR the text and generate a response?
Yes, because they don't
Yes,
just run
because
it.
they do that for ADAS.
for ADAS or
They read
anything
the
that's
signs.
But
like
but the ADAS
Waymo could
they
totally
read
do that.
specific signs.
Yeah, but the ADAS that I see like wireframe stuff that they're taking that image and like stripping out anything like
No,
No,
they're
they
showing
read-
the wireframe stuff for specific
They
purposes.
read the
Okay.
speed limit. They read the road signs.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's
and
true, they
Then,
do that.
And then when they navigate, most of it is not. They don't read the actual sign that say like Cupertino this way.
Right.
They read. They know from the map data
From the
that
map
they have
data,
to be
yeah.
in lane 2 from the right kind of
Right.
thing.
And traditionally,
but
these
they
systems
can read
don't all run.
Okay, they
on the
can-
same-
Hey, look, we have a new podcast guest.
Gotcha.
Check out that amazing white bird back
I
there.
know he's been hanging around.
Whoa,
Yeah, that
He's
guy's
just
been
chilling,
Yeah.
chilling.
on
New,
podcast.
new podcast mascot, right?
I know, right on. I mean, I think, look, I think it's interesting
name
to
him
me
Henry.
that this is the first Snapdragon Summit I've been to where, like, all of us are here and that's normal. But
Yeah.
then I ran into a whole bunch of car journalists, and,
Yeah,
but car
yeah.
tech journalists, and actually more analysts than journalists too, which was really interesting.
And this is the first. Is this the first time that they've talked
Tim
about
Stevens was
Snapdragon
here.
automotive?
Yeah.
at
Yes,
Summit?
yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
like a new thing.
They've mentioned it.
Dedicated
Like,
day,
but not
Right,
had-
a dedicated
not had a
day. Yeah.
yeah.
I will say
Digital chassis is only 2 years old anyway.
it,
Right.
it
Yeah.
feels like the car stuff. It's new, it's exciting, but it's on a longer timeline than something
100%.
like laptops. And laptops felt like for Qualcomm
Forever.
were on a long time timeline than compared to mobile. Like they iterated very quickly with mobile and they had a hit. It took them a long time. I don't think everybody remembers it. We do.
Yeah.
Because that first year was it 6 years ago, 7 years ago, they came out with their first set
ARM
of like
chip,
low
Windows on
powered
ARM.
laptops.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the 835 for
Yeah.
for whatever compute. It
And
was
and
85.
they
then they did an 855.
right, and there was a lot of promise there, and it feels like this is the first year with the X Elite where those promises are being fulfilled
Right.
in a big way.
Yeah.
That's a long gap. It's longer than some of the promises that we got with mobile, like where they achieved their goal. I feel like cars is going to be the same thing, if not longer. It's the development
yeah.
time for cars,
Yeah.
so it's going to be a wait. But a lot of the concepts will come about in a couple years.
I think the difference is though, like for compute, people were demanding these chips in laptops because we wanted all-day battery life.
Yes,
Yeah.
For automotive, I'm sure there will be people who will say, I will only buy a car that has a Snapdragon chipset in it.
No,
And
there
then-
will not.
but
Never.
like,
that is
no,
not a thing anybody
no,
will
but like,
ever
there-
say.
there will
they're
be-
big fans.
But no, it'll be two people, right? To the point of it does not matter,
Right.
right?
No.
Like
Well-
there's other chips in the segment that are going to be doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And the
I don't
whole
think it's
market,
about the chip, but there are plenty of people who say, I will only buy a car that has CarPlay. And that's because the software built into that
Right.
car sucks.
Yeah.
And so if that changes where it's faster
Correct.
and the car makers make an effort to actually build
Yeah,
their
that's the
software,
biggest
then-
obstacle in my
Yeah,
opinion.
but that's the thing. Like it's not. No one's going to be saying Qualcomm's chip is so far superior that I must buy a Qualcomm car.
But no, but here's the
because
thing.
the market is growing. Like the systems on the cars year over year are getting exponentially better. And what you guys drive all the cars, right?
Right.
And year to year, it's gotten so much better, right? And there's so many OEMs who haven't even dabbled into it. Like
Yeah.
Honda's systems, Toyota's systems, they haven't even tried versus all the EV makers that are out there that have gone completely digital.
that's the competitive edge, right? Like
Right.
if the car makers start to adopt this and build better infotainment, then that is a point of competition that they can
and
really
that is something
take
that
advantage of, because
don't-
like the Rivians and the Teslas, like people want that in
Yeah.
software.
That Halloween.
And that
but-
responsiveness
well,
is
yeah.
amazing.
But that's what I'm saying. The Rivians and the Teslas are doing it without the Snapdragon chip already.
Well, the
Right.
Rivian
Yeah, but
is doing it with
people
Snapdragon,
still
but-
want that, and most of the traditional automakers don't know how to make that happen.
I don't
Correct.
think it's any different from phones. I hate to say it for some of the brands out there, but
Yeah.
people don't necessarily buy it based on the chip, but they buy
Right.
it based on our reviews that say this one's clunky, this one's not. I think it's going to come down to those, like what the OEMs do with the chip and the software, and if the reviews say, yeah, this works really well and this one doesn't, then there'll be a difference.
So one thing I've learned from talking to a lot of people in the industry, like people at Infineon, people at Qualcomm, people at MediaTek in the automotive space, and NVIDIA, is that the OEMs don't even want to tell the media what technology they're using.
No, they never do.
No.
Like,
they never do.
this eventually somebody takes apart the car and finds, oh, look, it's like an NVIDIA, whatever, latest thing.
Right.
And that's how we found out that that Tesla had an Atom chip in the original Model 3, right?
Right.
Well, my point is I think they don't even want to, they want to be Mercedes, you know what I'm saying? And that's also why a lot of them have issues with things like Android Automotive, which is an OS that runs on your car, in your car for the cockpit and for the infotainment, because they don't want to give Google the credit. Like they just want, and that's why Mercedes created their own OS called Mercedes-Benz OS.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
look at Rivian.
But my point is they don't have to, but at the same time, Android Automotive on Rivian is non-Google services. So
sure, yeah.
it's designed to build an OS of your life.
I mean, phone makers do the same thing.
You look at GM, right? It's like they almost obfuscate the fact that it's Google services.
Yeah,
on there.
right, yeah.
But like, good luck finding the login and adding an app to your screen.
But
Like,
phone makers do the
you
same
know?
thing. Your OnePlus phone doesn't run Android; it runs Oxygen OS. Your Samsung,
But
doesn't
it says
run Android,
powered
it
by
runs Touch
Android
OS.
when you boot
It's
it.
Android.
Well, right.
It says
but
powered by Android when you
It's
boot it.
pretty. It's
nobody from OnePlus has ever used Android.
That's a licensing thing. Like
Yeah, but you don't even see that in cars.
no, but
Right.
but
That's fair.
because the licensing terms are different.
In
for
the same
phones.
way as you see Snapdragon on the box of your phone,
You don't have to though.
but you could, and so you don't see that in the specs of your car.
You get a discount if you put Snapdragon on the box.
I
Right.
see.
Like you pay less for the chip if you are promoting Snapdragon. So now we're going to see cars that will have Snapdragon etched on the glass.
no, just a sticker, just a sticker.
That is brilliant.
And then we're all
etched
gonna,
on your
dig
windshield.
it.
and then we're all going to peel off the screen protectors on the windshields, and it'll be fine. Yeah.
Screen protection on the windshield. You mean the laminated glass that saves you when you're in a car crash?
Yeah, whatever.
It's already essentially
Whatever. I don't touch plastic.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see that they made such a big fuss about automotive here, because while technically it's a much better chipset, these two chips, I don't think it's like very relevant.
Yeah.
Until we see devices, cars, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas with the phones, it's coming. Like it's next week, right?
Well,
Like,
I think they needed to announce it so that they can start getting it into the car manufacturers for them to test and start building into the next version, right? Like it had to be announced.
You know what? You make me think this is just a big branding exercise.
yes.
And we've seen more branding at this Snapdragon Summit than
Oh, my
I've
Lord.
seen in the past. And the Screaming Insiders
Oh
from the
my God.
Snapdragon Insiders crew.
But
No, they were
and
here last
they
year.
have to, otherwise
I mean,
they put
yeah.
them in the.
I've seen them, but
Otherwise, they don't come back.
I've seen them, but they're louder this year than they have been in the past.
Yeah.
And
You met
this
the
is
OnePlus influencers, haven't you?
like, but isn't it weird to be a influencer and an insider for a chip in a phone?
It is
like
kind of weird.
Hey. Intel was the OG.
It's cool.
Intel Inside.
Intel Inside.
They
That's
were
true.
the OG.
Yeah.
Intel
that's true.
Insider.
The reason we have all literally damage our nails removing stickers on
Yeah.
laptops. I make a point.
They get
Every
under
review
your
laptop
nail
I
and
get.
cut you sometimes.
Exactly,
Oh my
exactly.
God.
Because those they're like
Every
foil. You can like
laptop I
slice
get,
cheese with them.
Every laptop I get, I remove every
single one.
freaking sticker, and then never gonna. Like every locked phone I get unlocked
Yep.
on purpose.
So
I
maybe
don't-
Auto's
that's my-
here
that's
because
my
it's
mission.
just it's cool for the brand. It adds variety. It kind of exposes. I mean, they've got media here. You know, might as well just talk about something different.
Right.
They've got things to talk about, and cars are kind of exciting right now.
No, I
Cars are
think
the
it's
new
great.
computers
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
So
But
it makes sense.
it could be that, I mean, the automotive shows are about to kick off for next year, like right after CES, right?
Mhm.
And I'd imagine some of those that they're going to show off that will launch at the end of the year are probably going to have this chipset in it, and they needed to get ahead of that. Like the automotive show can't announce
That
it.
makes sense.
They need to
Right.
announce it themselves.
It also doesn't hurt that certain electronics companies' stock prices are just soaring based on
Announcements?
Car. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and car and AI. basically.
You're doing automotive stuff?
Right.
Oh, your stock price just went up 5%.
exactly. So that
Yeah.
car and AI. I mean, that's the big
Yeah.
focus here.
Wait,
for
you're
those
doing
reasons.
car and AI?
Yeah.
Double bonus.
Yeah.
Up 20%.
What was the example they gave us of Gen AI in the car?
The
Where they
birthday
keep-
cards?
Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
god.
I got
don't
into
get
a
Phil
fight with
started.
him about that.
Don't get Phil started.
Okay,
Please, Phil.
image generator in your car, and I have a problem with image generators because we all have problems with image
I
generators.
mean,
They're bad.
Who
They're
doesn't?
terrible technology, and they're demonstrating this for me. And he says, here, make a birthday cake. And I say, fine, make me a birthday cake out of puppies. And it's an adorable cake. It looks like puppies.
It is an adorable.
And then he goes, okay, watch this. Let's do a painting. Let's do dogs playing poker. And I said, if this looks like I expect it's going to look, you're
You know
ripping
it.
off some artist.
That's
You're
right.
ripping off
You are
the famous
ripping off
artist.
the famous
And it was
artist.
exactly what you have in your mind for dogs playing poker. The famous painting
Yeah.
hanging in Sam Malone's office. And then he says, no, watch, we'll do it again. It was just different dogs playing at a different table. And I said, you understand, this isn't realistic dogs. This isn't science fiction dogs. This isn't like Disney dogs. You've trained this and it's ripping off someone's art.
Absolutely.
He's like, dude, this is a waste.
And not to mention that, you
And he's
know,
like, it's cool.
not to
though,
mention
right?
that generative
I'm just a
AI.
contractor,
Yeah.
man. Come on.
Not to mention that generative AI is extremely biased, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if you don't put the guardrails
So-
in, it's a total disaster.
And that's what, walking away, I said, what would have happened if I said, make me a birthday card with a successful person? What kind of a person would I get? What would that person look like?
I know.
We all know what it would be.
I know.
They're
I
a
tell you, it
terrible
would be
technology.
Sasha.
Oh, it would be Sasha.
We
Yes.
are.
100%.
Sasha, come back in.
Yeah.
I went down the slide. I went up.
It's
the
an
slide.
hour-long podcast. We've got 5 minutes to go. Come on in.
I don't think you're supposed to go up
I
the
think
slide,
there's
dude.
He,
take my spot,
he was
yeah.
climbing up the slide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
sure.
you missed out on all the Qualcomm bashing.
Oh, the
man.
Qualcomm trash talk.
Okay.
We come back to AI.
We got
We
to
have to
talk
be nice
nice
again.
about Qualcomm.
Glad
Right.
I'm gonna still have my job.
Hey,
Thank you, everyone.
Huh? No, I just need to.
Oh
get
yeah,
big
no
stuff
problem.
before the
Thanks,
new-
Christian. Christian the
everybody.
Nooper, BGR, and many others.
See you, Christian.
Yep.
I think there's good AI and bad AI, and what you're describing
Is
is
bad.
bad
The worst,
AI.
yeah.
Not to this is a non-Qualcomm related thing, but when I got the Rabbit R1, I asked the Rabbit R1. I was the first one to
Oh
put a
my
score
God,
on there,
yes.
and I said, "Rabbit R1, what do you think of the Rabbit R1?" And it read my review back to me with no attribution whatsoever. And I was like,
wow.
"This is very meta, but also I hate this."
I also know.
Because it's backed by an evil company named Perplexity AI, and I just don't like them because they've stolen Forbes, they've stolen other tech publications, full articles without proper attribution.
Yeah.
Fine, they I'm a believer in AI doing medical things, doing just advances, getting information that you otherwise wouldn't want to have to retrieve. But when
Right.
it's breaking news, that is I can't use that. We can't use that as journalists because that is coming from the two sources out there with that breaking news and it's just mixing them together and giving
Right.
you something. So it doesn't work in all the industries, but there is good AI.
Also,
I mean, I do
50-50
like
chance of
summarization
bullshit.
a lot. I do like also creating headlines.
Yes.
Using like SEO, friendly headlines. It's
Oh,
a lot
man,
easier
thought about
than I do it all the time.
That's a good
So
call.
what one of the best AI flops that I saw from this year was after the Google launch. I got my Pixel 9 and
Oh, they left all the guardrails off.
Testing Gemini. They did, but I got the Pixel 9 and then a couple days later got the Pixel 9 Pro XL. And so I was doing an unboxing and at the end, I set up Gemini. The last part of my short form unboxing video, I launch up Gemini and I'm like, Google, or Gemini, what's better, the Pixel 9 or the Pixel 9 Pro XL? And it says, there's no Pixel 9 Pro XL. Google only has a Pixel 9. And I say to Gemini,
Bro, you're
Gemini,
Google.
you're wrong. I'm holding it right now in my hand. Oh, I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm like,
Wait.
like Gemini
Sorry
wasn't
for
even
gaslighting
trained
you.
on
Gemini,
the
you
device.
are a Pixel 9 Pro XL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was funny.
I like how
It
the
was
people
hilarious.
pleaser when you ask it again.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like,
You
oh,
reveal.
I'm sorry. I made a mistake.
Did anybody see? Oh, shit, I know his name is Crumbler on Threads. I can't remember it. Casey Newton posted a photo of him asking some AI. I think it was Gemini. To like, what's a summary of the news that happened today? And it spat out like a bunch of like news stories without links to it.
Citations.
And so he went back and said, okay, now can I have the links for that? And it came back and said, oh, I'm sorry, I made all those up. So yeah, that's my bad.
Well, I mean, that
but,
reminds
yeah.
me of the famous ChatGPT lawyer story.
The who?
Y'all know the ChatGPT lawyer
Hella.
story, right?
Oh,
I've
the
heard
one who
about
like
it,
the guy
yeah.
the guy who like went to court with briefs full of non-existent
Completely
cases
made up, yeah.
completely invented by ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Did it work?
No,
it did not.
The judge kicked him out
The
of.
judge kicked him out of court.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
want to say he was disbarred.
So
Something bad
any
happened.
final thoughts on the Snapdragon stuff and what, like, how do you guys feel about these phones that are coming? I mean, we don't know much, but I think this is going to be pretty
I'm
awesome.
excited about the phones.
Yeah, me too.
I desperately want to put them through their paces, and I am very optimistic about what I'm going to find. And more puppies next year, please.
Oh, puppies again.
Yes, more.
Well, I want to bring in kitties too.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
More
next
my
year.
vibe, but yeah.
I'm more of a kitty person.
Me too.
Puppies
and
I'm more of a kitty
Thank you.
person.
There
Although
go.
I did enjoy the puppies. It was amazing.
The little puppies were.
We
like,
all got
Oh my
puppies.
God.
I'll give you something specific that kind of excites me. It's the power, the speed, just running through websites a lot more quickly. This is kind of like the pitch that we had for 5G, but like the acceleration of this chip is going to make you more efficient in getting to a website, etc. We kind of saw that
Right.
with the speed test and,
Yeah.
and so forth. But it's the other side of it as well. It's the power efficiency.
I was going to say the same.
That gets me so excited. I'll give you a specific example. I was taking photos of the event, and I kind of had my laptop in my lap and just to have easy access to my phone. It was a non-Qualcomm phone, let's just say, because I ran into a problem. I had it under my thigh, and that's usually where I keep it. It's a
Right.
quick
Place to
access
not drop
spot.
it.
Yeah.
But I missed the photo of the ASUS ROG Phone 9 because my phone got a little hot by being under my thigh. And
wow.
that
The
should
radios were boosting up to get that 5G
Yeah.
signal.
that should
Yeah.
not be a thing in this day
Is
and
that,
age.
is that a
Right.
5-letter phone with it starts with a P?
It comes
I
from
have
a
had
company.
iPhones and Pixels overheat in the past year.
Yeah.
The new ones.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a problem that I'm hoping with some of the benchmarks that we've seen that this can be a problem that's tackled because my phone locked up and I couldn't and I missed it and it became a blurry photo. It wouldn't focus
Yep.
and the phone was gone. And
I'm kind of my exciting. The thing I'm excited about is I'm hoping that this new Orion CPU core will kind of do to phones what the M did to the laptops on, not quite to the same extent, but I really do think that we're it's a brand new chapter in performance.
Right.
But not just performance for the raw speed of it, performance for thermals, performance for battery life.
And for battery, yeah.
And so that we never have to worry about that stuff anymore
Right.
now. It's just like we have all the oomph we want if we need it.
It's like not a thing anymore.
But idling around, like I have all the oomph I need on my MacBook Air. I don't even have a Pro.
Yeah.
But when I'm not pushing it hard, I can literally fly to Hong Kong and back on one charge. Like that is amazing,
That's great.
right?
Yeah.
Because the screen is so dim because the lights are out, right? But I mean, that's the reality. A lot of it is the screen.
Right.
But the point is, I think that's to me what's exciting, and I think Apple's gonna have to like really crank it up next year, and everyone, and I think MediaTek as well. And I think that to me is where I think this is the big story here. That's what got me excited.
For me, it's going to be the cameras, like having that different processing pipeline for the OEMs.
You think it's going to be like a really big deal?
I honestly
a big
do.
difference.
Like
Yeah.
if the OEMs finally
If they
get
do it
access,
right.
if they do it right, we have brands like Oppo and Xiaomi who are spending a lot of money and competing against each other to say we have the best cameras in smartphones.
Damn it.
And they're spending a lot of money just for those custom
It's not gonna work.
image tones that they're doing. They'll be able to do that even better with this.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what that's going to be.
I really think that Xiaomi being the first out the gate with the Leica partnership on the 15 is going to deliver something really solid. And I'm hoping that we see something from Oppo or Vivo
Yeah.
further down the line because they haven't announced Ultra phones yet.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I
I
am
haven't announced
excited.
anything yet.
well, no, but I'm shocked. No, Vivo has,
Well, Vivo has, but
but Oppo hasn't. But my point is,
Yeah.
like they always announce the Ultras later. And last year the Ultras were the Snapdragon phone. That's kind of where I'm going with that, you know. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'm excited for Android fans to have a definitive and unequivocal win in performance over the iPhone, but there's still a huge software problem that has to be fixed in Android. I mean, it's still too complicated, too messy, too kind
That's
of
why
all
you
over
buy
the
a
place.
Pixel.
Yeah.
Even
go.
so,
Slam.
When are we getting that
This podcast
Snapdragon
not brought to you
Pixel?
by
I want to
Pixel.
throw a twist in that'll get back to my roots, which is probably something that none of you guys discussed in this hour. Okay,
What is
which is I am actually excited for Orion Plus X80. Okay,
Ooh.
I bet you
the
guys.
modem,
I bet
okay.
you guys did not bring up
Not
the
one of
X80.
them. No.
Not a single
Okay,
thing.
because it's a part that we actually announced some months ago, but this is productizing it, and it's a case where in terms of both Wi-Fi and 5G, you have a much nimbler system using more AI to better fix on beams, to better assure connections. In my life in New York City, I spend a lot of time on the subway. I'm like going in and out of coverage constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like grabbing that web page as I pull into the station.
Yeah.
Like, is the train going to spend enough time in the station for me to get the information I need?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, with the responsiveness of Orion and the way X80 works magic with weak signals, does that really improve my life in that scenario? And
Right.
it's really
That's a good
about
point.
improving your life in, specific ways that, specific use cases that you do every day.
Sasha,
Absolutely.
we were gonna tell that same exact story,
Yes.
but we're saving it for you.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
Nick, do you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet?
You can find me personally at Nick M. Gray on, I'm still going to call it Twitter, but
Me too.
Yeah.
Instagram, or
Get
else
off Twitter.
you can find my work on fandroid.com.
Awesome. Sasha, where can people find you on the internet?
I am Sascha Segan on Twitter, and also I have started posting videos that don't generally have to do with Qualcomm to YouTube. Some of them involve really old computers I'm playing with. You might want to check that out.
Nice.
Atari 800.
Atari 800.
Adam, where people find you on the internet? What's going on with you?
Dead Technology on everything except Twitter, and not on Twitter at all. And Forbes CNN/gear.
Awesome. Phil?
I am Flipper with a PH on Threads.
Great.
And I am not on Twitter
That
any
makes
longer.
so much sense. I never even knew
Yeah,
that.
Flipper with a PH, and I'm at Tech Radar.
Nice.
Awesome. And then you.
You can find me at Matt Swider, primarily on Twitter. I'm bucking the trend, and Threads and Instagram, and also theshortcut.com. That's where my content goes.
It's a newsletter. You should subscribe. Okay. It's
Should
awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. That's totally worth spending money on.
Yeah.
And you know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankgirl, TNKGRL. That's on all the social, Twitter, Threads, Insta, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the stuff. And also the podcast is at mobiletechpodcast.com. So if you're here the first time, subscribe, tell your friends. And then there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast with some videos there for you folks. You know how YouTube works. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. You can comment about the podcast if you want this show. That way we can chat with you. And if you want to help out, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/TankGirl. It's patreon.com/TNKGRL. The cool thing is, right now, if you're listening to this, we have a video version of this. You can see us in the pool. It's great.
Yeah.
And you only get
can see me
that.
trying to get out of the pool and failing.
That's worth it alone.
And you only get that if you subscribe to the Patreon. $5 a month gets you every weekly show a day in advance. So and also I leave bloopers and things, so you get extra content sometimes.
Will the pool episode be on OnlyFans?
Whole episode after dark.
Probably not. But please consider Patreon, folks. I'd appreciate it. Patreon.com/TankGirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. And if you want to help me out by just doing a one-time donation, there's a PayPal button in the show notes. So click through that and buy me a coffee or something. And then finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And thanks everybody here for being on the show. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
I also want to mention Christian DeLooper left. His handle is CDeLooper on most social, and he writes for BGR and a whole bunch of publications. So check him out. And of course, stay tuned. We'll have another podcast next week. And until next show, cheers, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So yeah.